Thank you, members, for joining us today and for your critical support of Spac. Thank you, members of the board, for your vision and your generosity. Thank you, Spac staff, Junior Committee, Action Council for your dedicated and tireless work. Thank you, resident companies, for your artistry. And thank you, partners, Live Nation, parks, city partners, cultural, corporate, and business partners, for your generosity and belief in our mission. We are so grateful for your presence today and grateful for the outpouring of support that we have been receiving from so many of you during these difficult days. Around this time every year, we would be gathering in the Hall of Springs, buoyed by the onset of spring, reveling in reflections of the previous season, and excitedly anticipating a lineup of amazing artists and performances just on the horizon. Instead, we find ourselves here on the Spac campus alone. Our magnificent amphitheater, normally a frenetic hive of activity, is now shuttered. A whole season of spectacular programming, lovingly conceived and carefully crafted over the course of more than a year, evaporated into thin air as we announce the cancellation of our entire classical season. The world around us has been forever altered, fragile and riven by the eruption of historical pain and injustice. And at a time when we need each other most, hungry for that sense of interconnectedness, we are most bound together by our fear, our uncertainty, and our biology in the face of a global pandemic. For 53 years, Spac has been defined by the unparalleled artists and performances that have graced our stage. Balanchine, Beethoven, Belafonte, Baryshnikov. Many thousands of performances, literally millions of artists and audience members gathering in our park, on our lawn, on the stage, in the amphitheater for over half a century. The memories formed around those experiences of shared joy, celebration, and beauty are lodged deeply into the very bones, psyche, and DNA of our community. And so, who or what, you might ask, is Spac in a summer that seems to have gone silent? And who are we in a world of hurt that longs for healing? Those of you who are with us today, by definition, are those whose generosity and interest makes Spac and everything we do possible. And we are so deeply appreciative of your steadfast support. But we also know that there are some out there who ask why support is critical and necessary, particularly now in a time when the stage of the amphitheater is dark. As a passionate lover of plants and gardening, my mind always turns first to earth-based metaphors. And a gardener knows that if a plant does not flower one year, the answer is not to let it die. To the contrary, you tend it, you care for it, you refortify it, so that the next summer it returns, even stronger and more beautiful. But let me shift from the poetic to the prosaic and give you a real overview of how Spac operates and why your support is so necessary and appreciated. I want to start with the basics in what would now be called normal times. Spac is a 501c3 charitable organization with an annual operating budget of roughly $10 million. That $10 million comes almost equally from earned and contributed income. $5 million in revenue from ticket sales, Live Nation rent, and other miscellaneous sources. The other $5 million must be raised through charitable donations and corporate underwriting. Now, many people assume that since we are located in the Spa State Park, that we receive operating funds from parks or the state. Though Spac has recently been the recipient of significant and generous capital funds for infrastructure projects via parks and the state, we received no operating support from the city, the state, the county, or the federal government. Other than a few $100,000 received annually in foundation and NISCA grants, every single dollar of that $5 million has to be raised through membership, donations, and regional corporate underwriting, a massive amount of money to raise every single year in a city of 25,000. Now, why does Spac need a budget of $10 million to operate? Let's start with our flagship residencies, the New York City Ballet and the Philadelphia Orchestra. We have been fortunate to call ourselves the summer home of two of the greatest performing arts companies in the world for 53 consecutive years. Ormandy and Balanchine are part of Spac's past, its DNA, and its future. But let's be clear about what it takes to continue that important and essential tradition. Every year, Spac must budget for a shortfall of over $2 million, or 20% of our overall budget, to sustain 4 weeks of classical amphitheater programming. The massive cost of the fees alone for companies of this caliber are in the millions of dollars, plus hundreds of thousands of dollars of production and marketing costs, of which ticket sales cover only a small percentage. These are simply the financial realities of a commitment to presenting world-class companies at this level. The fact is that due to these financial realities, only a handful of presenting organizations in North America still have the ability to make annual commitments like this. The Kennedy Center, who present New York City Ballet for 1 week every year, and the Bravo Vale Festival, presenting the orchestra for 1 week every summer. Now, often when I share these numbers, people ask me, well, why don't you just do more marketing? Spac does a tremendous amount of marketing, but marketing is also expensive, and funds must be allocated strategically and carefully to ensure maximum exposure over many different residencies and varied programs to audiences of different ages, income brackets, and tastes. Some of our ticket buyers get their information solely from print and newspaper, some from radio and television, many from online and social media sources, all of which are increasingly costly. And to put things in perspective, just that beautiful brochure you receive every spring, which, by the way, takes us close to 6 months to produce, costs $40,000 to print and mail. The truth is that bringing in new audiences, which is the key to our long-term survival, cannot, for the most part, be achieved through marketing, which is largely aimed at people who are already interested in or predisposed towards particular art forms, be it jazz, world, or classical music, ballet, or contemporary dance. New audiences are brought in through long-term strategic plans that involve community and outreach and education. And this is something to which Spac has been dedicating itself vigorously over the last 3.5 years. Since summer 2017, Spac has been strategically distributing free tickets to Capital Region organizations whose members have not traditionally attended our performances. Last year, for example, in partnership with the Agricultural Stewardship Association, Spac distributed over 1,000 tickets to regional farmers and their families. Through our Summer Nights at Spac program last year, free transportation, meals, and nearly 1,500 amphitheater tickets were provided to organizations like the Boys and Girls Clubs of Albany and Schenectady, the Commission on Economic Opportunity, and Northern Rivers Family of Services to provide children and their families the opportunity to experience live performances at Spac. Bringing new people through the door to experience the magic of live world-class performances for the first time in their lives has been one of our most powerful tools for creating new audiences. We know this through the data and the testimonials. It is working. We have expanded our programming to bring in younger audiences, families, and culturally diverse audiences through new initiatives such as our groundbreaking Spac on Stage series, through our live sessions at the Jazz Bar, through cinema evenings with the Philadelphia Orchestra, or Cafe Lena at Spac, and there's so much more. We know this is working too, as we see new people coming to Spac for experiences outside of and beyond our traditional programming. In addition to our devoted fans of the annual Chamber Music Society of Lincoln Center residency, we brought in new chamber audiences from all over the Capital Region through our winter concert series at Bethesda Church, which began in December of 2017 and has expanded over the last 3 years. Even our Wine and Food Festival has been refashioned to bring in fresh, new participants and attendees. Last year, our focus on local, sustainably produced food celebrated the cultural and culinary bounty of our region. It featured music curated by Cafe Lena, sculpture curated by the Hyde Collection, and highlighted chefs and programming inspired by an ethos of socially conscious cultivation and consumption. Over the last 3 years, in an effort to expand our audiences, but also to strengthen the bonds of the cultural and not-for-profit community in the city and the region, we have been creating and expanding partnerships with organizations such as Cafe Lena, UPH, Skidmore, Pitney Farm, The Egg, the Hyde Collection, MySci, the National Museum of Dance, the Saratoga Automobile Museum, COISA, and Opera Saratoga. Spac is an annual driver of over $100 million in economic impact in the region. Taking our responsibility to the business community seriously, we doubled down on efforts to strengthen cultural tourism to Saratoga and the region, and have been working tirelessly with our partners at the Saratoga County Chamber, Discover Saratoga, City Center, the City of Saratoga, NYRA, and I Love New York to spread the word about Saratoga as an incomparable year-round destination for world-class music, art, wellness, and nature. But more than anything, what Spac has done over the last 3.5 years is grow its education program. No matter how much we invest, no matter how much we market, there will be no future for world-class performing arts in Saratoga without a new generation exposed to the joys and transformative experience of meaningful contact with the arts. In the last 3.5 years, our education program has gone from serving 5,000 to serving 50,000 students annually throughout the Capital Region. Many of you have heard that stunning number before, but let me break it down for you a bit. In 2019 alone, Spac's education team worked with more than 120 local schools and nonprofit organizations to present more than 400 unique classes, events, and presentations and performances. Highlights include the expansion of our flagship Classical Kids education program, which now visits more than 50 schools throughout the region and provides more than 12,000 students each year with the opportunity to earn free admission to classical performances. A new annual ballet and fifth program aimed to introduce every single fifth grader in Saratoga to New York City Ballet. A new partnership with Double H Ranch that took Wynton Marsalis and the Jazz at Lincoln Center to the camp for an exclusive performance for the children. The annual Adirondack Trust Company Festival of Young Artists, which brings together hundreds and hundreds of young painters, poets, musicians, and dancers to celebrate their achievements and their artistry on the Spac stage. Now, when I first arrived at Spac in fall 2016, I already knew that both education and programming needed to go through tremendous growth and transformation in order to ensure a vital future for our organization. I am proud that we have accomplished so much in those areas in such a short period of time, all accomplished with your help. But the third area of serious concern and necessity only started dawning on me in spring of 2017 as I began to see Spac and the grounds awakening for the first time. I had the opportunity to tour every inch of the campus, from the 50 gate to the Charlie gate, and from the back of the amphitheater to the porticos of the Hall of Springs. And I began to see crumbling limestone and broken windows and rusting metal, amphitheater ramps and bathrooms and concessions areas that were dysfunctional and far from being aesthetically in keeping with our beautiful park location and Spac's position as one of our country's premier summer festivals. I saw an existing infrastructure on course to deteriorate beyond repair. And as we began to grow our education and programming initiatives, I also began to experience our severe shortage of space, from storage space to classroom space, rehearsal space to event space. And so we began a campaign to restore and renew our campus, creating not only a physical infrastructure that significantly improves safety, security, and functionality, but one that gives Spac, for the first time in its history, year-round education and community gathering space right on our own campus. Let me give you a rundown on all our campus improvements. In 2017, we built the new Charles R. Wood stage, creating a second stage on our lawn with a beautiful acoustic and ample space, a stage which has become a game-changing centerpiece for Jazz Fest, as well as the site of numerous performances by student and local performers all throughout the summer. In 2019, thanks to a generous capital contribution from New York State Parks, we were able to replace the aging amphitheater ramps with beautiful glass and brushed steel, modern lighting, and ADA-compliant handrails. This year, 2020, with the tremendous generosity and cooperation of our partners at Parks, Empire State Development, and Live Nation, we were meant to be unveiling a major new restoration construction project, the Pines at Spac, which includes a complete replacement and augmentation of bathrooms and concessions area, a new covered pavilion for programming, and a 4,000 square foot indoor-outdoor year-round education and community event space. As part of our commitment to restore the park-like feeling of Spac, we also opened up original sightlines with clear open views all the way from the 50 gate to the Victoria Pool. All these projects, along with a myriad of other safety and security measures that have been implemented over the last few years, have truly and finally transformed our campus, giving us the infrastructure that befits a world-class festival. All of that, of course, happened before COVID. So let me talk to you now about what we have been doing since the middle of March. On March 16, our whole staff of 25 began working from home and have not been back to the office. Despite all that, Spac pivoted quickly into the new normal, driven by the commitment to provide the same kind of uplifting, transformative, and inspiring experiences that Spac is known and loved for, through whatever outlets were and are available to us, and driven by our commitment to art, to artists, and to our community. Our education department, who were in the busiest time of our Artists in the Schools program, had to call an immediate halt to all in-school activity. Without missing a beat, they turned to the creation of the Spac Learning Library, quickly making creative, arts-based online content for children and families during the most critical time of the pandemic. And in an effort to keep money flowing into the hands of the many artists who would have been teaching in the schools, we reallocated those funds, paying artists to help us create content. The Learning Library continues to grow every week, filled with ever more amazing material promoting activity and creativity. On May 4, we were forced to announce the cancellation of the 43rd Freihofers Saratoga Jazz Festival. But literally the same day, we announced the Freihofers Saratoga Jazz Fest Stay Home Sessions, a virtual jazz festival which will take place on June 26, 27, and 28, featuring both national and local artists and produced in partnership with Cafe Lena. Much more virtual programming is in the planning stages, including the Festival of Young Artists, Beethoven 2020, performances by Joshua Bell, Time for Three, Chamber Music Society of Lincoln Center, and much more to come. Now, though the amphitheater is currently projected to remain dark all summer, this does not mean that the Spac campus will remain empty and silent. The one timely and valuable resource Spac has plenty of is outdoor space. We have an amazing operations team who have been tirelessly working on COVID protocols and procedures, and an amazing and creative programming team who have been reimagining Spac on an intimate scale. We have a myriad of plans in place and are ready to walk through whatever doors may be open to us this summer to provide art, inspiration, and support for our beloved community. And what of 2021? Needless to say, no one knows for sure. And the notion of a complete return to normalcy is most likely an elusive, if not misguided notion. But we are hopeful. And with dates already on the calendar for Jazz Fest, New York City Ballet, the Philadelphia Orchestra, and Chamber Music Society of Lincoln Center, we are focused on a full return next year. However, the level of support Spac receives now will be critical to that return. The fact is that, due to the necessities of cancellations because of COVID-19, in 2020, virtually all of our earned income, or 50% of our budget, will simply go away, with no chance of replenishment until sometime in 2021. Even though the stage is dark, Spac needs your critical support now more than ever to continue its work and ensure that the amphitheater lights go back on very brightly in 2021. Even though we have already significantly reduced our expenses and will continue to do so, let me explain why we can't just shut down and wait for next summer. Presenting a season of world-class programming is not an easy task and requires literally years of planning and hard work. Our programming department was already in the stages of planning 2021, even prior to COVID, and will require the next 12 months to rebuild a new season. Our development team, now more than ever, needs to replenish the coffers that will allow us to make those multi-million-dollar commitments to programming next year and in the future. Our education department must continue the important work they do year-round to bring arts education to tens of thousands of children. They are our future. Without our marketing and programming team, our virtual programming would not be possible. Without our operations team, all the beautiful buildings, both old and new, whose upkeep and maintenance are Spac's contractual obligation, would be left unattended to. But more importantly, without our operations team, no amount of activity, however small and intimate, would be possible at Spac this summer. To those who may ask why art is important during times like these, when even basic survival may be in question, remember this: art is not entertainment. Art is not a beautiful pastime. Art is a profound and essential expression of the human soul, allowing us to see the world through other eyes, through other lenses, taking us out of our own narrow individual slivers of human experience and into the large expansiveness of humanity, across continents, across cultures, across time. Beauty, both man-made and natural, opens our hearts and reminds us of our deep connection, our mutual responsibility to each other and to the natural world that sustains us. Spac is so much more than just a presenter of programming on an amphitheater stage. We are educators. We are conveners of community, and we are stewards of our place in this beautiful park. We are creators and purveyors of possibility and of experiences that encourage and allow the human spirit to flourish, something needed more now than ever. We have been a continuous part of the history, the psyche, and the DNA of this extraordinary city since our miraculous opening in 1966. Located here, at the perfect confluence of man-made and natural beauty, Spac is a refuge. Spac is a beacon. Spac is a beating heart that must never be allowed to stop. We are so grateful for your support, your memberships, your donations, and your corporate underwriting, the critical support which will allow Spac to continue its important work in the community now and set the stage for another miraculous amphitheater opening in summer 2021. Thank you, and be well.